What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle, where we are in the Sanitarium, where the jackets are straight, the parties get crazy, and the walls are extra padded. No, this is actually probably the nicest Sanitarium, quote-unquote, that I think I've ever seen. However, in today's episode, what we need to do is we need to confront Ethel more about the fact that one of his teachers is missing, I guess, or one of his researchers is missing, because we're looking for a guy named Atso, who is supposedly a part of the Lead Key. At least it's what it's looking like right now, and the Lead Key is what we're trying to track down. I was going through our quest log in between episodes because this is like a new recording session, and almost every single one of our quests is like us against the Lead Key, and so I figure we should probably figure that out. I don't know how many more side quests I want to work on for right now, because we have a lot of them. However, I think most of them require me to travel around a little bit, or at least like half of them are just things we have to keep our eyes open for because they're character quests. And so they're all little things that are going to make characters in our party happier. But by and large, a lot of them are just things that we don't know exactly where they are. We just sort of have to wander until we find some Cliffs, for example. So there it is. Unless you know a guy named Cliff, I don't think there's any Cliffords anywhere near. I used to like those books with the big red dog when I was a kid. I used to be a big Clifford fan. Clifford was a G back in the day, and he was one of my favorites. I really, really liked Clifford. I can't tell you why, though. I just remember as a kid, whenever I saw Clifford the Big Red Dog, it made me stoked, but I can't give you any real, like, logical reason why I cared about those books at all. I can't remember any of the storylines. I can't remember anything about it, and yet I was really happy about it when I was a kid. I don't know. Ethelmore! I found records that Atso may be running some questionable experiments. Experiments? Cademan Atso is in charge of patient welfare now. He's not authorized to run any more experiments. I am disappointed in Cademan. I had hoped he would be the one to guide your inquiry. He'll be in his office or in the patient wards. I'm granting you immediate access so that you can find him. No doubt you'll wish to speak to him further on the matter, and I, for one, am curious as to what he might have to say. Tread carefully in the wards. There are a few dangerous cases, and I would ask also that you do your best not to agitate the patients. They have enough troubles as it is. Okay, well, now that we've got access, we'll go down. So is that him just... How does a... He's a statue, but he's in control of a building, and so is opening doors kind of like flexing your pecs for him? Or like, how would that... Does he just think it and then it happens, or is the building like an extension of his body? Which part is the ass? Because I really don't want to travel inside of another man's ass right now. This is my first recording of the first day that I'm back on duty, and I would just prefer... I don't want to be in anybody's ass right now, and so if any part of the building counts as just like his colon or whatever, can we just bypass this? If we could just not do this adventure, it would mean a lot to me. Okay, so what's going on here? A flesh construct. We've got Freyall. Better than Frey some, I guess. A curved spine twists this woman's posture forward, her greasy hair draped over her large eyes like vines. She smiles at you. You must be visiting someone. Then, noting your appearance, she adds, a friendly visit, I hope. Do you know where I might find Atso? I think I've seen him around today. Have you checked the laboratory? It shares a wall with his office. He's been spending most of his time there lately. Have any of the patients been acting unusually? Well, there's Batixa, who relieves a murder she committed more than 5 lifetimes ago. Edelman, who they say only has half a soul and has been found collecting the faces of others because he believed his own to be a false one. Graham, he speaks in a language that nobody understands and wails at night sometimes and invents crackers. Different from their normal favorite, I mean. Well, yes, I suppose, but nothing they didn't volunteer for. Master Atso let us know that a number of patients in the North Ward had volunteered for a new therapy and would be escorted to his laboratory to receive treatment. The North Ward has our most troubled cases, and I'm glad that some of them have been chosen to get help. It seems to me it's gotten quieter over there since it started. Yeah, that's not a good thing. Why are you here? Her cheeks flush. I don't want to say. You'll think less of me. Okay, I'm listening. The last few years haven't been kind to me. They haven't been kind to anyone, really. I try not to think of it as personal. I lost my husband and both boys in the Saints' War. My daughter, the legacy took her before she was ever mine. I made do. What else can you do? I moved into a tiny place in Andra's gift, got by mending clothes on the kindness of strangers when I had to, but I was surviving and the gods were watching over me and I could live with that. Then one day a noblewoman comes in, wants this fancy gown fixed. A gorgeous thing, the shade of blue that I'd never seen before. Only I looked at it and it reminded me of something. I had what they call an awakening. I remember being a noblewoman myself in another life and people doting over me and men doting over me. Me, the best food, the most beautiful home, and all the things you could ever dare to dream of, they were mine. It was poison knowing that. All those things I had that I'll never have in this life. It did something to me. My food started to taste rotten. The walls of my little room seemed to close in around me. I stopped being able to sleep in my own bed. So I came here. It was that or break into an estate and start ordering servants around. It seems like a silly thing to worry about. You don't have to tell me, but I can't get past it, and I start to wonder, did the gods choose this life for me? And if so, what a terrible thing must I have done to deserve it? You had it right before. There's nothing to do but live with it. That's what kept me going, but it hasn't gotten easier, and that's, well, it's just too bad. Alright, well, farewell. Fortunately, for right now, doesn't seem to be a whole lot we can do to help her out. Having an awakening seems like kind of one of those things. If you guys ever watched, God, what was the name of that show when I was a kid? I gotta think of it now. It's in there somewhere, but there was a show when I was a kid. Mutant League, that's what it was. When I was a kid, there was a show called Mutant League where you would just like randomly become a mutant one day because I guess a bunch of toxic sludge came up out of the streets. And so obviously for our entertainment, we would then make the mutants fight in ultra-violent contests against each other. Awakening sounds kind of like that, where one day you just like turn into a mutant or something. At which point, once that takes place, you can never live your life normally ever again. It seems like it would just sort of suck. Like she was looking at a blue dress. She's like, oh, a lovely blue dress. Oh, crazy mode initiated. Crazy mode equal true. Well, that's it. There goes my life. I guess I'll just go check into the Sanitarium now. They said I should go to the north side, but since I'm a hustler, I'm going to go to the south side for... Oh, there's... Wait, they said he was in...
I'll see what I can do.
Ooh. I want to loot. What is this? Raven Wing. A one-handed mace. Coordinating. 4 accuracy when attacking the same target as an ally. Extra damage when attacking the same target as an ally. 3 DR bypass. 1.5 damage increase. And it does 16 to 23 with average speed. Cool. Yes, please. I'll take it.
I can do that.
Unlock that right there. What is this? Blade Golan. 7 DR light armor, breakout, preservation, and fine. Breakout, so it lowers stun durations and knockdown durations. Preservation, you get 20 defense while stunned, 20 defense while prone, and then you get a +2 damage reduction. Okay, so it has a damage reduction of 9 total. I'll take it, but I don't know exactly how that's going to be helpful for right now. I know that most of our guys are wearing pretty high DR armors because we have a lot of heavier characters. Actually, his is 7, so Blade Golan must actually be pretty good if it's better than Scale Mail. What's he rocking? He's got 10. And then what's he wearing? He's got 6, and he's wearing medium. And so we might think about giving that to him because it'll be better. It's made out of feathers and other things that seem like they would be really, really itchy and irritating to wear. Although you might be able to fit in at some kind of, I don't know, Castro Boulevard party. It's quite feathered. You would be invited to the parade, that's for sure, if you wanted to get down on it. Save yourself a little bit of money, just sort of like dressing for the occasion, but, you know. Alright. Cademan Atso, let's... No, not you. You're the worst person to have this conversation. A round-faced, balding man turns to face you. His upper lip is pulled upwards slightly by his pointed nose, exposing his upper teeth when he scowls.
What is the meaning of this?
Ethelmore told me you're not supposed to be doing any more experiments. Yes, well, Ethelmore hasn't done much good for anybody since he had his soul moved into an inanimate object. So I fail to see why I should let that sway me. If Animancers all followed the commands of their leaders, where would we be? We'd all be as backward and willfully ignorant as Raid Ceres. We'd know nothing about life or death or even ourselves. We'd be lost in the dark with no clue as to why. I never thought I'd find myself in agreement with a statue, but Ethelmore's right about this fellow at least. He sneers at Atso, how easily ambition masquerades as prudence. I'll bet he's fooled even himself. Surely there are other paths that don't involve risking lives.
Many lives have been spent in such pursuits, writing treatises and poems. But tell me this, how does one verify the truth of a poem? If some philosopher stumbled across the meaning of our existence, how would we know it from a false one? These are wasted lives. In Animancy there is progress. We are measurably closer to complete understanding because of our work, and that will be true until our work is complete. Who will solve Widewen's legacy? Some church? Some warrior? It will be an Animancer, or it will be no one at all.
Have you tried your experiments on any other subjects? I have, yes. No point in lying about it now that Ethelmore is involved. I asked for volunteers from our patients and a few brave souls came forward. I was very close at one time to a breakthrough. They understood that. They understood that their sacrifices would mean something. Well, I'm looking for an expert on awakenings. I don't have time to give you directions. Go bother somebody else. I'd like access to the North Ward. Out of the question. Those patients are in isolation for a reason. So that you can... Well, I've seen your records. I know what you're doing with them.
Those are private! You have no right!
He balls up his fist and digs his teeth into his index finger, a growl simmering beneath his breath, and a deep scowl compressing his face. Ew, don't bite yourself. That's weird, man.
Fine. Speak to them for all the good it'll do you. I'm sure the discussions will be fascinating.
You seem to be a little bit unstable, man. Your penchant for capitals. I really think you have a broken keyboard when you were typing out your dialogue. Breaking the fourth wall! Alright, well, let's go find some more treasure. What does this say? The copper wires and conduits are shiny, the device is warm to the touch. Shiny equal good. Something churns and bubbles in the tank. What's this one? The copper wires and conduits are shiny. Okay, so they recycled that one. I'm sure they recycled the other one too. Then if they recycled the first one, I would think that the second's more than likely recycled as well. Recycling copper is a good way to make a lot of money, by the way. While we're on the subject, I mean, we can just talk about it briefly. So what do you have? You have 12 to 16. Well, hell. Oh, that thing is badass. It's like a grappling hook with a stick on the end. Yup. It's like we robbed Batman's car. That thing's amazing. Quickly, to the bat mace! Just in case I need to beat somebody down. Clunk. I remember when I was a kid, there was like an action figure of Batman that was in medieval times. It was pretty dope. Like, it was medieval Batman, and there was like medieval Robin, medieval Joker. I remember really, really thinking that they were awesome, but I never got a chance to get them. I don't know. I didn't have a whole lot of action figures when I was a little kid. We got a patient right there. I tended, like, whenever I had a birthday or whatever, I would just be like, Nintendo games or something. Like, I would just throw that out there. My parents would go to Funko Land, and they get, because that was back when Funko Land was a thing before GameStop bought them out, and they'd buy, like, I don't know, 5-10 games at Funko Land for, like, $3 or $4 each. Just random Nintendo games, random Sega Genesis games, too. And that was the best. Alright, so to the North Ward, although I will say that this looks like the Northeastern Ward. I don't want to be too specific right now. This is my face. Tell me. That's got to be the guy that can't figure out if his face is right or not. What are we even looking for in here? This man has the look in his eyes of a hunted animal. At your approach, he staggers backward to the far corner of the cell, halfway appearing as though he would climb the walls if it would get him farther away from you. He cries out a bizarre primal utterance like nothing you've ever heard. I need to ask you some questions. He looks at you blankly, and it's unclear whether he understands you or not, but his panic is momentarily subsided. He opens his mouth to speak, but the words that come out are half-formed as though his tongue were cut out. They're impossible for you to discern, if indeed they're words at all. I don't think he can speak anymore, not in words at least. This is monstrous. Freyal said you were being treated by Cade Manazzo. He looks at you with uncertainty. Slowly and tentatively, he steps close to the front of the cell, and as he does so, for the first time you can perceive his soul within your ken. It is misshapen, as though maimed by some jagged instrument, and large expanses of it have been gouged out entirely. You feel no barriers of resistance. If you wanted to, you could look further into Graham's soul. Wouldn't that be dangerous, though, since it's not complete? You project outwards towards the maimed soul in front of you, merging with it, its confusion and fear becoming yours as it whisks you into its depths. You're in your cell, a key turns, the door creaks open on neglected hinges. Thoughts come to you in waves, incomplete, broken, and fearful. Standing at the door is a rotund, balding man. His upper teeth and pointy nose remind you of a rat. He beckons, apologetic. You don't want to go. Anything else? In your mind is a single word, and that word is no, but it dissolves before it reaches your lips. You press against the back wall cornered. You cry out. In darkness, you fight against unseen restraints. You cannot move your arms or legs. The man walks into the room carrying a lit candle, its meager flame casting long shadows across books and machinery. Straps bind your arms and legs. Cold metal circumscribes the crown of your head and the breadth of your chest. The man is sorry. He's in need of raw materials. They dismantled his work and he needs another source. He needs to show them he was right. He thanks you. He turns a knob and you feel yourself begin to crack from within, and you can feel pieces of you being torn away. It's like having your insides chewed on by a horde of rats, and you scream a scream that you can barely hear. Another night. Heavy footsteps outside your door, coming for you. You look through a slit in the door. The flesh giant, the artificial being just outside but facing left, facing the end of the hall, the boy there. The boy looks with interest at the giant, then collapses onto the floor like a shed snakeskin. The giant convulses for a moment, then rights itself, turns away, and leaves. Graham looks at you, still wide-eyed, but somehow more present. He nods at you, then walks back to the end of his cell. Okay, so there's a patient at the end of the hall. Nothing in there, nothing in there.
This isn't the treatment that they were promised upstairs by the cushioned seats and lush carpets. Is that the cure for soul sickness? To be thrown into a cell and subjected to the whims of your captor?
I doubt the wealthier citizens have the same experience. I'm sure that they have their share of family members they'd rather forget. But if all were treated like this, the sanitarium would never survive. What did these patients do to warrant such conditions? Well, here's the source of all that knowledge you were so giddy about. He grimaces. It's one thing to be told as much, another to see it yourself. Let's be on our way. This place gnaws at the soul. Indeed, it does. If you've never been to a sanitarium or like one of those old buildings they used to use, you should go. Should check it out. Old memories like soaked into the walls of those places. Not healthy at all. These places are creepy as hell. A willowy adolescent boy stands in the center of his cell, gawkish and stoop-shouldered. He stares straight ahead, the occasional blink his only movement, and it's unclear whether he registers your presence at all behind his glassy, doll-like eyes. In this state, the barriers between your soul and his are thin and porous, easily bypassed if you should wish it. You close your eyes and edge forward towards the boy's soul, and as you near, a sudden malaise comes over you. You are cold and warm all at once, sweating and shivering and straining for breath as you did on the caravan journey. The soul you approach is the wrong one, a parasitic plant that strangles its host. It's predatory and pitiless, and you have crossed paths with it before. Too late does it occur to you to retract, and already you feel yourself plunging into some interminable abyss of thought and memory. You are standing in a cell now, the same cell, in the sanitarium. The halls are moonlit and empty, and you are waiting. At the far end of the ward, the door opens, revealing a flesh golem in silhouette beneath the stone archway. It makes its usual rounds, the same stops every time, the misbegotten child of despondent creators. When the construct is close, you coil yourself up and spring forward, passing out of the boy's body as though it were a membrane. You can sense his body behind you, collapsing to the floor, a puppet whose strings are cut. You are rushing towards the golem now, bodiless as a gust of wind. Quickly you think to yourself, quickly, and you feel the strength hemorrhaging from your soul as you dart towards the makeshift abomination. You pass into the golem's shell and overtake the soul implanted within, encircling it, suppressing it, and contained in this new vessel you are strong again. You step heavy-footed down corridors, unheeded by the other constructs and scrutinized only by the wary, untrustworthy eyes of the mad, coming at last to an office piled with books and scribbled papers and the perverse implements of animancy. You set your oversized hands upon a large machine, a nest of globes and tubes and coils in the center of the room, and go to work, bending wires and unsettling alignments. Your surroundings are pulled past you, or perhaps you are pulled past them and they dissolve into a blur. When they settle into a place again, you are outside on a clear day, standing in front of a crowd stacked high above you on the tiered seats of an amphitheater. You are creating, or you are acting for the crowd, standing deliberately still, but this is no play. A balding man with a rodent-like feature is strapping you to a machine, the one you had tampered with. You see your arms for the first time, short and fleshy, unmistakably those of a little girl, but this body is not truly yours. Your mind still holds the same determination, the same hard-heartedness as before. The body itself is cold and vacuous, unlike the others, but this one has no soul of its own. The man speaks, and the crowd applauds with an enthusiasm worthy of a hero's entrance. "Bear witness," he says, and pulls a lever. The machine shivers and sparks, and a bead of sweat rolls down the side of the man's brow, but the crowd's apprehension quickly gives way to awe as a crystal globe fills with radiant mist that casts the entire theater aglow. He opens a valve, and a glow crawls through the tube along the length of copper wiring that runs to a set of electrodes beneath your armpits. You feel nothing when it reaches you, as it should be, for you have been leading your work astray periodically for some time, altering notes and settings and playing puppeteer for Hollowborn. But you make it look how people would expect it to look when a body is infused with a soul. In a moment the machine goes dark and the man unstraps you, eyeing you with a scientist's concern. He looks back up at the crowd. "Behold," he says, but there is obvious hesitation in his voice. Slowly you take a plodding step forward, then another. You look up at the man, giving him the eye contact of which no Hollowborn is capable, and the crowd gasps. The man looks relieved. "How do you feel?" he asks at a volume meant for the crowd, and this is the moment. At the top of your lungs you let out a piercing shriek. The man comes towards you, his hands outstretched, but you run the other way, back to the machine. With all your strength you drive your head into the crystal globe, and it shatters, streaking your head with warm blood. You drive your head down into the surface of the machine again and again, drawing panic screams from the crowd, and by the time the man reaches you, your body has already ceased proper function and merely twitches on the cold ground. Satisfied, you depart the corpse in search of another unsuspecting host. Who could put their faith in animancy now? You are pulled again from your surroundings, transcending the boundaries of memories and lifetimes, deeper and deeper past betrayals and murders and lies upon lies that form the thick webbing of plots beyond mortal comprehension. You settle last on a room you've seen before, expensive, with a tall device encasing an Adra monolith at its center. The room is filled with people, and the people all look at the device. You are yanked suddenly back to reality, and the once catatonic boy in the cell is looking directly at you, appraising and calculating. There's no mistaking now that it is the soul of a man who caused your awakening that gazes out from the borrowed husk. A watcher. You made me into a watcher. I need you to undo it. Is that so? He makes no effort to hide his disinterest, but he continues to search your eyes. He makes a slight grunting noise and his eyes soften for an instant, and it seems for a moment that he recognizes you. He opens his mouth to speak, then seems to think better of what he's about to say. His jaw tightens. I know your look. You hunger for answers that elude you. It gnaws at your soul. It usurps your reason for being. You are like everyone. I will help you let go. He dodges backward with startling grace, putting himself out of reach. In his face, there's no malice, only the dispassion of a farmer putting down a sick animal. Then suddenly he slumps forward. That's not good. Alright. Well, you go forward as quickly as you can. You get over to here and block him off. It appears as though our problems have gotten very, very fleshy. It looks like Sagani has returned with money and 700 experience. On this side, let's go ahead and make a barrier for the ranged characters so that nobody has any chance of getting near us. The crazed patients have obviously got to go. Now that he's out of the line of sight, what we can do on one side, I'm going to switch her around so that that doesn't happen right there. His first move should be one that is decisive. And what could be more decisive than a fireball upside the head? So let's go for that. There we go. Decisive fireballs. I love decisive fireballs. Idelman, Batixa. Okay, so we've got problems over on that side. They look like casters. I would say that we should fire some shots off that way. I would continue shooting fireballs on this side. Let's get him going with an AoE heal / damaging attack. I need somebody over here. See, they just seem to like disengage combat whenever the hell they feel like it. It's such a weird thing that they're able to accomplish. Like this guy, I think he was tied down and he just walked around everybody. Weird. Alright, well, since we've got other problems to think about for right now, let me get an AoE right here. Ow. Okay, since we just got grilled on, give me anything, really. I don't know what she's doing right now, but I would love to have her in a position where she can help out with this. On this side, I need healses. On this side, just throw out whatever. And then for her, I need her to go through with Savage Defiance so that she can get some health back. And then we really, really sincerely need to focus on killing as much as we can. It looks like we're doing pretty well. I feel very overwhelmed right now with this combat, even though things are going according to plan. I don't know. It's hard to describe. Like, sometimes you feel as though you've lost the battle, even though you haven't. And then you've got to look at everything on the battlefield and be like, we haven't lost, right? And everything looks okay. I don't know. It's a strange feeling to describe. Let's get rid of a couple of these fleshy constructs right here. You think they could give them clothing or something. They got them, like, weighing to the wind right now, just running around doing whatever the hell they please. I feel like we're going to get in trouble for this. We might get a light scolding, maybe. Or a light scalding from some of the wizards around here, if they like fireballs as much as I like fireballs. Looks like we've got a bunch of nothing and nonsense over here, so that's not going to be very helpful or valuable. Take a look around the cell very quickly. Make sure that there's no traps in here. It's got a little bit of cash in the basket, but that's about it. The bucket reeks of awful. Yep. The chain's grown with added weight. Crescent bite marks. Pick the... just chewing on your bed, huh? Alright. Seems a little bit healthy. I'm sorry, a little bit unhealthy. Not going to help the gums much. Probably drain nutrients quite well. Damage the old enamel. Is there anything in these rooms? Or is these all empty too? I think these are all empty as well. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do for right now... Let's go check the next room, and if we get attacked, I guess we get attacked, but... Here, I need people to pull back so we can actually fight this guy. It appears as though all of the flesh constructs have been, or the constructs have been drawn against us by the unseen force that we were discussing previously. That guy seems to be able to possess a lot more of these than we thought he could. Just throw out some daily spells, or some conflict spells, doesn't matter. There we go. I'm continuously impressed by how much damage the gun does, but I guess you gotta balance that out by the fact that he fires very, very slowly. Okay, well, let's break it off right here. My name is Splattercat. Thank you for joining me here at the Nerdcast for the next episode of Pillars of Eternity. I look forward to seeing you all in future episodes. Hi to everybody. I'll see you next time.